Traditional conversations about the next chapter of our lives are typically about slowing down. We're told that the aspiration is to relax more and ease into the next chapter of our lives. And I get it. After years of hard work, you probably do want to spend a bit more time doing stuff you love with the people you love and like. But here's the paradox. All the evidence points to the fact that we need way more than relaxation to live a happy next chapter of our lives. We need a purpose. We need meaning. We need to feel we add value to the world. We benefit from experiencing more awe in our lives. Also, if you've got way more time than the next chapter of your lives, I believe your 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond could be the era where you not only spend more time doing what you love, but also doing the things you're most passionate about and proud of. So there's an amazing opportunity, but there's also a problem. So, in this video, I want to break down the 7 elements of your life I'd recommend you focus on as you approach the next chapter to make sure it's the most happiest and most productive era of your life. Welcome to What Happens Next. You haven't got to look that far to find examples of individuals who have started working on and achieving amazing things in their 50s, 60s and way beyond. After all, Da Vinci was no spring chicken when at 61 he painted the Mona Lisa. Tolkien didn't publish The Lord of the Rings until he was in his early 60s. And Benjamin Franklin drafted the US Constitution with the other founding fathers at the ripe old age of 81. Now, your aspirations might not be to draft documents used to govern a country, publish a fantasy classic, or paint a masterpiece, although in my honest opinion, I think the Mona Lisa is a little overrated compared to other amazing works of art. But regardless of your aspirations, I think I can provide a bit of insight. Now, I've been fortunate enough to work with clients who have gone on to live successful next chapter of their lives. I've also read hundreds of books on this particular subject and got the opportunity to interview some amazing people for the What Happens Next YouTube channel. And here's what I learned. 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond can be your happiest but also most productive, if you want it to be, era of your life. But there's some elements that we need to be aware of. So here's the 7 elements I believe it takes to live not only the happiest but also the most productive period of your life in your 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond. Well, as a little side note here, I'm not talking about productivity for productivity's sake. That's, in my opinion, is pointless. What I am talking about is working towards something that gives you purpose and you care about. That's where eudaimonic well-being comes from. And this is what I'd like for you in your next chapter of your life. Let's start with the fact that I believe, and the evidence points to, the most compelling thing you can do to have a successful next chapter of your life is start with your mindset. That starts with both a desire to be curious, not only about the world, but also about what you believe in, and a growth mindset. The individuals I see thrive in their 50s, 60s and beyond tend to view life through a lens of curiosity. They tend to approach the next chapter of their lives by asking a lot of questions and having a massive appreciation that despite building significant amounts of wisdom, experience and knowledge in their time on the planet, they've also still got a lot to learn and relearn in the next chapter of their lives. I think it's always useful to have a beginner's mindset and think about the world not from a perspective of what you've learned, but what you've still got to learn. The definitive book, I think, on this subject is a book called Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. I love that book. It's so good. And if you haven't read it, I'd recommend you pick it up. And certainly, I believe many of the insights shared in this book are all about a more helpful mindset to adopt as we approach change in our lives. And that could either be retirement or what happens next looks like for you. Next, let's talk about health. Because I believe one of the most important things you can do to make sure you're happy, healthy and productive in the next chapter of your life is think about health as a baseline. I know that financial planners, including me, have been guilty of talking about lifespan more than health span. But actually, the more I think of it, the more conversations we should have on not only how long we're going to live, but how long we're going to live with positive health and the ability to do the things we want to do. However, I think we need to talk about two important things. Firstly, if you're looking at your financial plan, it might be a good idea to spend more in the early years of your retirement when your health is good. Because actually the ability to do things both productively but also for your own enjoyment is likely to be better in your 50s, 60s and 70s than it is in your 80s or 90s. The second thing is it's also important to appreciate the role you play in maintaining health span and positive physical health for as long as possible. And the good news is wherever you are today, you can make progress. I'd recommend you lift weights, play paddle tennis, cycle, run, walk. I'd recommend you eat well, focus on getting better sleep, get a relatively regular health check organised so that you can make sure you maintain that well-being. Also, get support and help when you need it. I know that my experience with physical health is doing something social, either in a exercise class or on the paddle tennis court, makes maintaining my physical ability a hell of a lot easier. The right route for you might be something different. It might be to employ a personal trainer, but accountability and knowing that because we're social animals, we're going to engage more with that fitness journey if there's other people involved is the key element. The key thing here is to focus on what you can do to maintain and improve your physical health for the remainder of your life, so you've got as much chance as possible to live the life you truly deserve for as long as you can. I know that often maintaining physical health, particularly when you haven't done it previously, can feel like hard work, and that's because it is. But my experience through the conversations I've had with clients, the conversations I've had with fitness experts on what happens next, and the experiences from my life tell me that hard work then allows you to live the life you truly want. I also think it's important to talk about friendships. One of the most powerful predictors of happiness in later life isn't wealth, career success, or even health. It's relationships. The famous Harvard study of adult development, which tracked people for over 80 years, found that strong social bonds were the greatest factor, the single greatest factor, for living both a longer and happier life. I personally think this is an area a lot of people underestimate. Leaving work can sometimes mean losing a whole network of colleagues and friends. And if you don't intentionally rebuild these connections, often loneliness can creep in. So it's worth asking yourself, who do I want to spend more time with? What friendships need rekindling? And where could I find new circles of people who share my interests? One of the biggest areas a lot of new retirees suffer from is that lack of purpose. And this is why I want to talk about in this video productivity and regaining that purpose through working on doing something you love. And it's why it's so important to examine and think about what purpose means to us in the next chapter of our lives. For decades, if you're like most people, your sense of purpose was probably wrapped up in your career. Your work gave you structure, identity, and a sense of contribution. And when that stops, many people find themselves asking, who am I now? Or, as a client once put it to me when he was deliberating whether to finish a job he hated, despite me telling him he had enough money, when he looked me in the eye and I asked him why haven't you stopped work yet? His answer was, Chris, who am I if I'm not that? Identity is such a interesting thing. And actually, our identity often gives us purpose. But if we're thinking about the next chapter of our lives, maybe it's time to redefine that purpose. And it's interesting, purpose in the next chapter doesn't need to be grand or world-changing. For some, it's volunteering, mentoring, or creating something new. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday who told me that they've found purpose in their life by looking after their grandkids. You know, that's something that they wanted to do when they stopped work because they understood and appreciated building memories with those grandchildren was really important. When you're clear on purpose, or you're making little experiments to work out what purpose is to you, life can feel less like drifting and more like steering. You want to be in control of your future so that you can decide your best what happens next picture. When I think about my purpose, I think it includes a bunch of things. That includes being a good dad, a decent husband, and adding value to my clients as in my role as a financial planner. However, it also includes doing these videos because what I want to do is share with more people ideas and concepts that are going to help you and people like you plan and prepare for the next chapter of your lives. That's why I'd love for you to do me a favour. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, like this video, and leave a comment below with your thoughts about the things that make sure that you're going to have the best next phase of your life ever. And I would love to see them. And it would really help getting the messages we share on what happens next out to more people. Next, I want to talk about money as a tool instead of a goal. Here's what my 20 plus years of experience as a financial planner and now a chartered financial planner comes in. Money does matter. It does have an impact into the quality of our lives. It often buys freedom, security and choices. But it should never be the end goal. Only the thing that enables us to live the life we want. Too many people either obsess about having enough without defining for them what enough means, or they avoid thinking about money, or they hope for the best. And let me tell you through experience, none of these approaches work. The real question I'd ask yourself is, what do you want money to do for you? Do you want to travel more? Do you want to support your extended family? Do you want to invest in experiences or invest money in starting a new business as a personal project? Do you want to leave a legacy for the people you really care about? Clarity here is essential. Working out what you want the money as a tool to do to improve your life then allows you to take the right steps forward. And because once you know what you want the money to do, financial planning stops being about the numbers and starts being about the possibilities the money can give you in this next chapter of your life. One of the most overlooked but powerful drivers of eudaimoc well-being, how to make sure we fill our eudaimoc bucket, is making sure we're fulfilled when we contribute. Simply the sense that we want to give back, we want to help others, and it makes us feel good. Again, this doesn't mean to be philanthropy on a grand scale. Contribution could be mentoring young generations, sharing your expertise in a part-time role, volunteering for a local cause, or supporting your community in small but meaningful ways. And then there's legacy. Not just the financial legacy of what you leave behind, but the stories, values and lessons that live on in others because of you. I'd suggest that in this chapter of your life, you ask yourself a really pertinent question. What do I want people to remember about me, particularly for the work that I'm going to do in the next 10 to 20 years? Because here's the thing. Legacy is not just what happens after you die. It's also about the impact you create while you're still here. I'm personally thinking a lot about community at the minute, including how I help people navigate the next chapter of their lives. And actually, we've got something special launching soon, early next year, to support people to do that. Now, We're not publishing much on it at the minute, but there is a waiting list. And if you'd like to join the waiting list, feel free to check the description below with a link, or simply, if you're watching this on your phone, not on a big screen, tap that QR code. But you can also find us at www.whathappensnext.life. The aim is to launch this brand new support solution for people like you early in 2026. So join the waiting list and you can find more when we release it. I've left my most contentious point, I believe anyway, until last. But I think it's really important. To thrive in the next chapter of your life, remember you're going to die. This might sound a bit morbid at first, but hear me out. The ancient Stoic philosophers had a practice known as memento mori, which literally means remember you must die. And further from being depressing, what it actually meant is it inspired people to live their lives more fully. Here's the paradox. When we confront the reality of our limited time, we tend to stop wasting it. Think about it. How many of us postpone our dreams, delay our passions, or put off what really matters to us because we think we'll get to it later? The truth is, none of us know how much later we've got. Marcus Aurelius put it most pertinently when he wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say and think." It's a really sobering and scary reality. But it's also a good one because it frees you to live the life you truly want. Let that sink in. If you stop living your life by default and start living by design, how does that look? You can take more risks, you can love more deeply, you can forgive more easily, and prioritise the things that give you meaning and you truly want to do instead of simply distracting you. So in the next chapter of your life, and as you approach that, ask yourself, if this year was my last year, what would I do? What would make it a period of time that I'd be really proud of living in? If this month was my last month, how would I spend it? And if today was my last day, what would I regret not doing? That simple reflection done daily can really transform not only how you experience your next chapter, but also the legacy you leave behind. And I think the old retirement model is actually a bit broken. And in this video, I talk about why the old retirement model is broken and what you can do personally to make sure you don't fall in that retirement trap. And also, if you want to think about mindset, and my mindset, having a growth mindset and a sense of curiosity is so important in our lives. This video will talk about that in a bit more depth. That's it for today. Hopefully that's been insightful. Have a lovely day and we'll see you on the channel soon.